Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, August 3rd, and happy Sturgeon Moon. It's a full moon today, which definitely inspired our practice a little bit today. My name is Shelby Dwyer. I'm a counselor with crazy hair right now at University Health and Counseling Services. This is Yoga for Mental Wellness, which is a really awesome partnership with UHCS and the Center for Spirituality, Dialogue, and Service. So super excited to be here with you on most Mondays from 4 to 5 live for some yoga. Today, you'll probably want 2 yoga blocks or potentially a couple textbooks or maybe a stack of books and a blanket if you have any knee sensitivity. I don't know if Luca will be joining us, but I've kept it's my office chair. I've kept it ready to go for him in case he does show up, so we'll see. Right now he's sleeping with his brother out in the sun. I keep forgetting to say this when we started, but please listen to your body, do what's best for you. Everything that we do in these classes and, trying to live stream, there we go, I couldn't think of the word. Everything we do is an offering. You are the expert of your body and you know what's best. So if anything doesn't feel right, anything is painful, sharp, there's numbing, tingling, anything like that, gently ease out of the shape. Maybe come into a child's pose, maybe lay on your mat the whole day, whatever works for you, whatever is going to serve your body best. All right, so if you were here last week, you remember I've been dabbling in a little bit of core work because I'm doing a lot of sitting now that we're remote. And so today we're actually going to start off with some core work. So you will come onto your mat and you're going to find your plank pose. I know. What is this? So we're going to start out really just getting the body warmed up. And so your feet will be about hips width distance behind you. You will have your wrists underneath your shoulders, fingers spread wide, and make sure that you pull your shoulders away from your ears. And there's this simultaneous action of like growing your spine out of your legs, out of your pelvis, also pressing back through your heels. I'm already shaking. So keep breathing here. Pull your belly button toward your spine so that your core is activated and you're really protecting your low back. But notice what the mind wants to do. If at any point this is too much, lower your knees. There is no shame in that. I tend to take plank pose with my knees down a lot of the time. I'm going to do that right now, actually. But notice what's happening. Notice that your body might be burning. This might feel really intense. Your shoulders would maybe start to hurt. Can you breathe? Can you breathe through the discomfort? Just a few more seconds here. Keep going. One more big breath in. Exhale, lower your knees gently. Take your knees wide to the edges of your mat. Sink your hips back toward your heels. Maybe rest your forehead on the ground. Maybe bring a block underneath your forehead. Let your arms just settle, the shoulders settle. Take some deep breaths in and out. Really letting your inhales expand your ribs from side to side. And take a moment to check in with your nervous system. And you may have clicked on this live stream thinking, oh, this will be chill. Shelby always does yin. It's super, low key. And then all of a sudden we start out in a plank, which we've never done. So check in with yourself. Check in with your inner environment. Notice if maybe your heart rate is going. Notice if you feel like you just like ran a marathon and you're now trying to stay still and rest on your mat. We'll be here for a couple more minutes and see if you can breathe through that sensation, that shifting of sensation rather in your body. Allowing the breath to allow your heart rate to slow down. Allowing yourself to come down from that, what may have been a jolt Sometimes it's a lot harder to sit in stillness than when we're moving. And so have compassion with yourself. Really let your mind and your body just come into the same space, and allow anything from your day to just kind of be behind you for now. Leave it off of your mat. Allow yourself to feel supported fully by the ground beneath you after just exerting so much energy. If you'd like, you can always bring the knees closer together to take a closed knee child's pose. That'll offer a little bit more support to the torso. You could even allow your arms to drape alongside you now, coming into an embryo shape. And we'll be here for about another minute or so. I'm going to sit up just so that I can talk. So yin yoga is rooted in traditional Chinese medicine. And yin yoga is more of the practice that I typically do if you've come onto these live streams before or watched any of the archived videos. And it's different from your typical Vinyasa yoga because it requires us to come into a shape, hold that shape for a few moments, few minutes, while we feel some sensation, not too intense, but also not too gentle. We hold for that period of time in relative stillness, and that allows us to target connective tissues in the body. In traditional Chinese medicine and in yin yoga, the body is made up of meridians. And so all of the different shapes we do in yin yoga actually target different meridians. There's also how traditional Chinese medicine focuses on the 5 elements and the seasons. And so while we're not going to be focusing on any of those in particular today, I thought that, it's a full moon, the Sturgeon Moon, and we'll do a little bit of a play on a moon salutation, but incorporate some yin poses in it where we'll hold for a little bit of time. You'll notice too that we'll be doing some yang and some yin shapes. Yang meaning more of this like energized, warm, like warming movements. So like our plank pose. In comparison, also a more yin pose of this child's pose that you're in currently. Whenever you feel ready, begin to slowly walk your torso upright. I'm going to turn to face you, but you can continue to face the short edge of your mat. Inhale, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Exhale, lower your hands down to your sides. Wow, words are hard today. Inhale, moving the arms with your breath, reaching up towards the ceiling. Exhale, lowering the arms slowly with your breath. Again, inhale, moving with your breath, shoulders melt down your back. Exhale, palms face down, pushing the floor away, pushing the air down towards the floor, I guess would be a better way to put it. Inhale again, arms up. And exhale, lower them down. Inhale, reach your left arm up towards the ceiling. Press into your right hand. Root your pelvis down and then arch up and over your right side as you exhale. See if you can continue to allow for space in the right side of your ribs. And it's almost as if you're a crescent moon shape, kind of diving sideways over your bottom half. Gaze can maybe be towards the floor, maybe straight ahead or up towards your arm. Maybe you inhale and create a little bit more length in your spine. And your exhale allows you to arch just a little bit deeper. Take one more big breath in. Exhale, slowly begin to bring your body back towards center. Lower your left arm. Inhale, both arms up again. And exhale. Inhale, arms up. And exhale. Once more, inhale. And exhale. Inhale, this time reach your right arm up towards the ceiling. Press your left hand into the ground next to you. Lengthen through your spine, and as you exhale, arch up and over your left side. Again, making sure that you've got enough space in your midsection on your left side to be able to really breathe, that you're not kind of crunching into or sinking into your hips. So every inhale gives you maybe a little bit more length, a little bit of a straighter spine. Your exhale can keep you exactly as you are, or perhaps you begin to dive and arch a little bit deeper. Gaze again can be towards the floor, maybe towards the front, or maybe gazing up towards your arm, top arm. It's important here too, I didn't say it on the first side, but make sure that your core is activated. You should have some awareness after we did plank for about 30 seconds. But notice how pulling your ribs in, pulling your belly button toward your spine, activating your core, maybe actually restricts the movement a little bit, but brings the focus more into the side body, specifically your right side ribs. One more long breath in here. Exhale, lower your right arm down to the side. Inhale, reach the arms up again. Exhale, lower, moving at your own pace for 2 more rounds. I'm going to turn back around. You can continue to be in the same spot. Go ahead and come to all fours. So fingers are spread wide, wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. You might, for this part, want your blocks or your book up towards the front of your mat, as well as you might bring your blanket underneath your knees if you need some extra knee support. And here in this tabletop or all fours pose, tap your feet out, the tops of your feet out for a moment. If you were just maybe resting on the tops of your feet quite a bit, they might feel a little pressured. Maybe tuck your toes. Oh, my ankles just cracked. Maybe roll out the ankles a little bit. You might even kind of move backwards and forwards, just playing around with adding some pressure with your toes tucked. And then begin to move through some cat and cow. So inhale, drop the belly, coming into cow pose. Your heart pushes through your shoulders. Exhale, round the floor away. Maybe you gaze toward your knees. Push the floor away, round through your upper spine. Inhale, drop the belly, gaze forward. Exhale, round, coming into cat pose. So move at your own pace and invite in some movement here if you like, maybe wiggling around the hips. Maybe playing around with letting the head drop, kind of shimmying the hips from side to side, just finding some more like fluid movement. I know especially if I'm sitting, my hips can get very tight. So maybe even like coming up to stand on my shins for a moment, pressing the hips forward just to open up through the hip flexors, that part where our hip meets our thigh. Again, moving through cat and cow at your own pace. Moving with your breath. And then as you feel ready, step your left foot forward in between your hands. You might have your blocks alongside you. And what I like to do is kind of walk my left foot forward a little bit more so that my hips can move forward and down. And I can feel a stretch across the top of my right thigh and also in my hip flexor, like the inside of my right hip. If you'd like, you can keep your blocks or your books stacked on whatever height, framing your front foot, your left foot. You could also come up even higher and press your hands into the fleshy part just above your left knee. This would be considered dragon pose typically. This, I'm blanking on the name. I've seen it called two different things. I think this could technically be low dragon. So you could also bring your hands, instead of having them on blocks, you could have your hands outside of your feet on the mat, or maybe on the inside of your foot. But if you have your hands on the inside of your foot on the mat, try not to wing your leg out to the side. Keep your leg still in this lunge, your knee tracking over your ankle, or potentially slightly forward. But wherever you are, ensure that your right leg is coming directly out from the hip behind you. Make sure that your right knee is also supported here. We don't want any pain or sharpness or numbness. We're going for maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10 on that scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is excruciating and I can't sit in this pose anymore, and 1 is I can totally fall asleep. This is so easy. So again, not too intense, not too gentle. And then once you find that 4 or 5 out of 10, see if you can bring yourself into relative stillness. You'll see me periodically checking my Fitbit just to look at the time. If you have your torso more upright, I have to remind myself, pull the shoulder blades together down your back, pull the shoulders away so that you can open and broaden through your collarbones. Allow the torso to be heavy, but engage your core so that you're protecting your low back and not crunching into the low spine. Let the muscles in your legs relax to the best of your ability. Notice if there's areas of clenching that you might feel. Maybe you could imagine that there's like warm honey pouring over those parts of your body where you feel tension. And that honey just kind of lubricates the area and softens it. Or if you're into Ayurveda, maybe it's warm ghee. We'll be here for another minute or so. So again, check in with your body, just as we did when we were in plank. Maybe there was a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And you need to maybe sit your hips back toward your heels for a moment just to relieve some tension. Tension. You can certainly do that. But if you feel like maybe your mind is just getting distracted and your body can actually keep going, maybe you stay. Remind yourself that this is temporary. Breathe into the discomfort. Breathe with the discomfort. You've probably done things that are much harder in your life. When you feel ready, big, solid breath in. Exhale, slink your hips back toward your right heel. Maybe lift your left toes up towards the ceiling. Bring your hands to your hips for a moment just to make sure that you're not kind of leaning into your right hip. Maybe walk your blocks or your books back so that they're more underneath the shoulders. And then we'll pause here, just getting a nice stretch to the back of the left leg in this half split or half Hanuman pose. Which I think is technically half Hanumanasana, I think. So again, shoulders are together down your back. Pull the low ribs in, pull the belly in towards the spine so you can protect your spine and keep your back really strong. muscles in the legs are relaxed. Your arms are doing some effort because they're holding you up, but the bones in your legs are really supporting you here. Take one more long breath in. Exhale, bend back into your left knee. Move your blocks over to the side. Swing your left leg back to meet your right. Scoot your blanket off of your mat if you had one, and then come to lie down on your belly. And bring your forearms to parallel. I know, you're like, wait a minute, why aren't we going into a lunge on the other side? Oh, you'll see, I won't forget. So bring your arms to 11, basically like a number 11 with your arms. Make sure that your elbows are, your wrists are in line with your elbows. Fingers are spread wide, pressing into the mat. You might lift one leg and like imagine someone's pulling it back behind you. Lift the other leg. I always almost knock something over with my foot, so let me shimmy myself over. And then really press your pelvis into the ground. The elbows are not winging out to the side. They're in and parallel to one another. And play around with moving the elbows further away. Notice how that releases sensation in the low back. The closer your elbows are to being under your shoulders, the more compression you might feel in your low spine. Again, shoulders are together down your back wherever you are. Ears, shoulders are also pulled away from your ears. Legs farther apart will also release tension in the spine. Legs closer together will increase it. For me personally, my feet closer together also causes a bit more tension in my low back, like right at my pelvis and my back. So find what works for you here. We'll be here for a couple of minutes. You might imagine, similarly as we've done in other recent classes, that you can press your pelvis into the ground and also like grow, grow your spine out of your pelvis and lengthen your heart forward. Keep breathing here. Any tension in the neck, you can always drop your gaze. You can also bring one of your books or your blocks underneath your forehead to rest your head on. It's a really nice way to support the back of your neck. Keep breathing deeply into your belly. You've been here for a few minutes, so notice if anything needs to be adjusted, if maybe you want to move where your arms are to release some tension in your low back. Maybe you want to stay in the same shape. Maybe you're done and you just want to lie down on your mat. That's cool too. This can be a nice shape, this Sphinx pose, to counteract all of like the hunching forward that we do over our computers, if you're like me, on a daily basis. Take one more long, full breath in here. Exhale, slowly melt your torso down. Stack your hands, maybe turn your head to one side to rest your cheek. And then maybe wiggle out the hips here. You might even windshield wiper the legs from side to side. And then allowing yourself to lie down in stillness for a moment, full on your mat. Allow your breathing to become a bit deeper here. Breathing into the low back, and notice how that almost massages out the spine a bit. Whenever you feel ready, begin to push yourself up. Hi, Luca. To all fours. Yes, hello. Hello, big boy. Everybody's going to be so excited. And then when you're in all fours, we'll see how this goes. When you're in all fours, again, fingers spread wide. Give Luca kisses. Knees underneath your hips. Wrists underneath your shoulders. Go ahead and move your spine a bit, coming in through that cow and cat pose. Notice if there's a difference in your body and your spine since we were just in Sphinx. We've also done a bit of cat and cow before. What are you doing, little boy? Good thing I'm doing my right foot because he's totally in the space where my left foot would have been. Couple more rounds with your breath. And then as you feel ready, you might bring a blanket for your knees for some support. Maybe bring your blocks to the top of your mat and step your right foot forward, coming into that low lunge on the right side. Although this is technically dragon pose as we discussed. So your hips will melt forward and down. Your right knee will be over your right ankle, or potentially it might actually bend a bit more forward. You can kind of see that. Great, and now he is laying on my mat. All right. You could come up for full dragon, bringing both of your hands to the top of your right thigh, just above your right knee. That, for me, though, creates a little bit too much compression in my spine, so I like to have my hands forward, framing my right foot on blocks or potentially on the ground. And just as you did on the first side, you could, cute, what are you doing? You could potentially bring your hands down to the mat to frame your right foot. Maybe you bring your hands to the inside of your right foot. Again, if you bring your hands to the inside of your right foot, avoid the knee winging outwards or coming to the edge of your right foot. Find what works for you, knowing that this side may feel very different than the first side, and that's okay. Our bodies are not made to be symmetrical. We also might have a more dominant side. For example, like I'm a righty, so my right arm is a lot stronger than my left. I didn't say this before, but as he's just crawling all around. But make sure that your left leg is coming straight out from the hip. Good boy, Luca. Good boy. If you're upright with your torso a bit more upright, again, remember, roll the shoulder blades together down your back. Allow your heart to shine forward. We want to counteract the sitting and the hunching over that we might do over our computers. Your arms are using some effort to hold your torso upright. See if you can relax the muscles in your legs. You might feel a pretty decent stretch across the top of your left thigh, maybe even some pressure in the hip flexors. Anytime your wrists experience sensitivity, you can always come onto fists, whether that's on your blocks, your books, or even on your mat. You've been here for a few minutes, so you know that we're almost done with this shape, just a couple minutes left. You might remind yourself, as you did in plank, as you did even on the first side in dragon, that this shape is temporary. The sensation is temporary. And while we're exerting some effort, we will move toward relief. That's like the worst spot to lay in. What are you doing? Can you guys see this little boy? What is he doing? Why don't you go in your chair? Yeah. All right, we've got about a minute here. Keep breathing. Maybe allow your hips to sink a little bit more forward and down. Maybe you change your hand position so that you come a little bit lower towards the ground. Find what works for you. Staying exactly as you are is always appropriate. Easing out of this shape at any time is also totally appropriate. You are the expert of your body. You know what's best for you. Take a big breath in here. Exhale, begin to straighten through your right leg. Maybe toes lift up towards the ceiling. Bring your hands maybe to your hips for a moment. Ensure that you're not sinking into your left hips. Maybe walk the blocks or your books back so that they're more underneath your shoulders. And then you could potentially allow yourself, your torso to drape a little bit over your legs. That's going to increase the stretch across the back of your right leg, across the hamstring. Wherever you are, ensure that you've got space in your torso to breathe. If you're not rounding through your spine, you could keep a long, straight spine here, pulling your belly button toward your ribs to protect the low back. Keep your head in line with the rest of your spine just to avoid compression in the low back, or excuse me, in the cervical spine. Take one more long breath in here. Exhale, begin to swing your right leg back to meet your left, knees close together. Sink your hips back toward your heels. Drape your arms alongside you and come into that embryo shape. You just keep me. And allow yourself to breathe here in this embryo shape, like a tiny cocoon. Letting the shoulders melt towards the ground. If you find your hips are a little bit too far away from your heels, you can always bring your blanket or even a block underneath your hips for some support. Sorry, it's just a rite of passage. Or just anytime he's right here, I just got to give him kisses. He's just so cute. Whenever you feel ready, big, full breath in. Exhale, walk your torso upright. And then press into your hands, lift so that you're on your toes. Begin to straighten through your legs. Maybe bring the feet about hip-width distance apart. Maybe grab opposite elbow. And then just sway from side to side, coming into this dangling pose. Keep a soft bend in your knee here. You might kind of bop up and down while you sway from side to side. You might even let your hands just hang towards the ground. You could also interlace your fingers behind your back and reach your arms up towards the ceiling, keeping the palms together, which might mean you don't go arms as straight. Rinsing out your upper body. When you're ready, big breath in lifts you up. Coming into a halfway lift, hands on your shins, chest parallel to the floor. Exhale here and hold. Pull the shoulder blades together down your back, long straight spine. Inhale again. Exhale, dangle down. Inhale, flat back again. Exhale, melt forward. Once more, inhale, hands to shins. Exhale, come down to find a seated pose. I'm going to work around Luca because he is a little prince and I don't want to disturb him. You can move your props off to the side and come into a seated shape with your left leg in front of your right. So left shin in front of right shin. Plant your arms alongside you for a moment. Grow your spine long. And then, begin to just take some circular movements. There we go. Good boy. He's in his chair now. So taking some circular movements with your torso. Maybe you bring your hands to your knees. And hold if there's any spot that feels maybe a little bit sticky or tight. I know for me, this really gets into my left IT band, my left outer seat as well. And I recently started doing bar classes online because I wanted to try to move my body outside of yoga and running. And this is definitely really nice when I've done a lot of outer leg work. So highly recommend. Going in the opposite direction if you hadn't already. And then whenever you feel ready, switch your legs so that your right shin is in front of your left. And then again, rounding your torso, almost like your pelvis was a bowl and your spine is the spoon. And I'm mixing it up. Holding if there's any spots that feel a little sticky or tight. Going the opposite direction if you haven't already. Making these as big or as little as you need them to be. And then once you feel complete, coming back up with your torso long. Got a cat hair on my face. Oh, it itches. And then sit however feels most comfortable for you. You might even bring your blanket so that you can sit the edge of your seat on the blanket just to give your spine a little bit more length. And then making two peace fingers, bring your fingers, both hands, to the ground, arms long alongside you. Align your shoulders over your hips, your ears over your shoulders, your chin parallel to the ground beneath you. Spine is long here, crown of head reaches long towards the ceiling. Take a big breath in and exhale. Again, big breath in and exhale. Once more, big breath in. Let it go. Continue to really root into the ground with your peace fingers. Keep your spine long. Heart pushes forward through your shoulders. Shoulders melt down your spine. If it feels comfortable for you or like something you would want to do, I'll invite you to almost set an intention for yourself for the rest of your day or for this week, or maybe simply for this moon cycle, since we're entering a new full moon today. Not a new moon, but a full moon. Acknowledge that you were able to move through that modified moon salutation with grace and with ease. That you were able to breathe through the discomfort and breathe through moments that were challenging. That you stayed grounded within your body and honored what your body needed in each moment. Take a few more rounds of breath here, perhaps setting that intention. Maybe repeating a phrase or a word to yourself that you might really need to hear today. When you feel ready, if your eyes are closed, gently blink them open. Gently roll out the wrists for a moment. Maybe open and close the palms. Gently remove your blanket. You can push it off to the side. Grab one of your books or blocks, and you want it potentially on the lowest height. You'll come to lie back down on your mat. Lift your hips up towards the ceiling for a moment. Bring the block or book underneath your sacrum. So it's this flat part of your spine at the base of your spine. And you'll find that there's a place where you can sort of just balance your torso, or your pelvis on that block. And then here, you might extend your legs overhead in a cactus shape, keeping the knees bent. You might kind of wrap your arms around your head. You could keep your arms resting alongside you on the floor, or maybe hands on your belly. As for your legs, you can keep the knees bent, or you could begin to straighten out through both legs. Straightening through the legs is going to really stretch the front of our hips and get into that hip flexor on both sides. It's also, even if you have bent legs or straight legs, we're opening up the front of the body a bit more. Really let your front body, the belly, your legs, your hips, your heart just be open and melting over your block, over the mat. Be mindful that you don't have pressure in the back of your neck. If you need to, you can always stack your hands behind your head if it feels like there's a little bit too much pressure. Breathe deeply into your belly and notice how the breath allows the front of your body, your belly, your chest to open a little bit more. Breathing into your belly like you're trying to inflate a balloon. And I just had to really consciously let my feet flop out to the sides, let my legs really relax. If it feels like with your legs straight, there's too much compression in the low spine, remember you can always bend your knees. You can even bring your feet to the edges of your mat and knock your knees together to alleviate even more of that tension. Breathe into any sensation that your body may be experiencing. Take a big, full breath in here. Exhale, bend your knees, plant your feet on your mat, lift your hips so that you can remove the block or your book and just set it off to the side for a moment. Hug your knees into your chest, give yourself a squeeze, maybe curl up into a ball, rock from side to side, just massaging out the low back. If you'd like to, you could take a happy baby pose, bending your shoulders, bending your knees in toward your shoulders, feet towards the ceiling. You can bring your hands to the inside or outside of your feet, and then imagine that you're in a squat upside down, and maybe you rock from side to side. Maybe you stay stagnant, pulling your feet down toward your hips just as your feet push away towards the ceiling. Keep breathing deeply into any sensation, maybe any tightness that you're experiencing. As you feel ready, slowly lower your feet. Release your hands from your feet. Maybe give yourself a squeeze once more. Then gently roll to one side and find your books or your blocks. You'll need both of them this time. We'll move into fish pose. That last pose that we did with our block underneath our hips was actually pontoon. Forgot to share that. One of your blocks you can put potentially on the highest height near the top of your mat. Your other block will be on the medium height. So this is low height, medium height, tallest height. If you're using a stack of books, same thing. You can maybe stack a few books so that you can get it to a specific height. This is going to be where your head goes. And this second block, the block furthest from your top of your mat, will align just under your shoulder blades. So you'll turn so that your back faces your blocks, and then find that second block, that lower block, and situate it underneath the shoulder blades. Lay your head back. I have no idea how I aligned that perfectly for my body, but I did. You'll lay your head back on your second block and potentially keep it on the tallest height, or maybe even adjust the height of your block a little bit. I'm going to take mine a bit lower because I want an opening across the front of my neck and across my throat. Knees can stay bent here, or you can straighten through your legs again, and notice how differently it feels with the block underneath your back instead of underneath your hips. Also, I totally spoke too soon. I did not align it as well as I thought I did. Look at that. I got all cocky, thinking I'm so cool. No, universe put me right in my place. You can have your arms alongside you, resting on the floor, or maybe elbows on the floor, hands resting on the side of your ribs so you can really feel yourself breathing. If you have the space, you could also have your arms out in a T shape or maybe even overhead. But notice how that really puts a strain on your shoulders, so find what works for you. Again, breathing into your belly, allowing the breath to really just massage your front body. Allowing your torso to be fully supported by your props beneath you. Keep breathing deeply. Your shoulders are melting away from your ears. Your heart is open. Take a big breath in. And exhale. Inhale, use your arms to prop your torso upright. Move your blocks off to the side for a moment. And then once more, before we lie back down, you can turn whichever way feels more comfortable. Bring the soles of your feet together, knees bend out to the side. And oh, Moo, it's okay. It's my other cat. And then you could bring your hands to your ankles if you'd like, or maybe your hands to the insides of your feet, maybe hands to your knees. And your legs can be in a bit of a diamond shape. We're taking butterfly. So you can have more of a diamond shape, or you can bring your heels closer to your hips, whatever feels more comfortable. But just go ahead and start to bounce the knees up and down. Just kind of releasing any lingering tension in the hip flexors, in the hips, in the inner thigh. Maybe bouncing the knees up and down or one at a time, going opposite. I don't know if you can hear that. That's Moola. Come on, Moo. If there are any people that don't like animals on this, I'm very sorry. And also, you should love animals. All right, one more time. We'll go ahead and take some circles with our torso. So again, maybe holding onto your ankles, or maybe even bringing your hands to the floor for added stability, moving your torso in one direction. And then switching, moving your torso in the other direction. So you notice we've taken more circular shapes at times today. Hey there, Sturgeon Moon, full moon. And then whenever you feel ready, finding neutral for a moment, bring your spine long, chin parallel towards the ground beneath you. Maybe close your eyes. Take a big breath in and exhale. Then make your way down to your mat to lie down for Shavasana, your final resting pose. If you'd like, you could also choose to take this seated, which I think I will probably do. But if you decide to lie down on your mat, you can lay so that your legs are completely extended and relaxed. Feet flop out to the side. Maybe you rest your arms alongside you, or let your hands rest on your torso. Maybe you prop your head up on a block or a blanket or pillow if you want a little bit of support for your neck. You could also take Shavasana with your knees bent, feet to the edges of your mat, knees knocking together. That's going to add a little bit more support for your low spine. And finally, you could also choose to take the Shavasana seated upright, instead in a seated meditation. Wherever you are, come back to that intention that you had set at the start of our practice. If you imagine that that intention is kind of like a Jolly Rancher. Yes, ma'am. Something that is juicy and interesting and flavorful, and something that you can kind of chew on for a little bit. So savoring that intention or that mantra, holding space for it. Gently letting that go and returning now inwards. Checking in with your body. Recall that moment when we started our plank at the beginning of this practice. Recall the strength that you embodied throughout this practice. Recall your ability to breathe through discomfort and to recognize that that discomfort, those sensations were temporary and fleeting. And that even in moments of physical or emotional or mental discomfort, you were able to breathe through it and with it. This practice offers the body stress, but the kind of stress that promotes resiliency. And so know that even in times that are so challenging and maybe overwhelming, that perhaps in some way you're boosting your brain, your body, your spirit's own sense of resilience. Take a long, deep breath in here. And sigh it out. If you're lying on your back, hug your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Keep your eyes closed or maybe have a soft gaze and roll over to one side. Pause on your side for just a moment. Allow yourself to really let the practice sink in, for your body to absorb these 60 minutes of movement and breath. As you feel ready, gently propping yourself up to come into a seated position on your mat. Again, eyes can be closed or perhaps with a soft gaze. We'll breathe with our arms again. So inhale, reach your arms up towards the ceiling. Exhale, lower the arms down by your side. Again, moving with your breath. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, lower the arms. Once more, big breath. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, lower the arms down by your side. Bring your left hand to rest over your heart, fingers spread wide. Right hand rests over your belly, fingers spread wide. Acknowledge the strength that you exhibited during this practice. Offer gratitude to your body for being able to move in the way that it did during the practice and the way that it supports you each day. Maybe send some gratitude out to your fellow yogis who practiced with you today. And even some gratitude out into the world. Slowly begin to blink, open your eyes, release your hands, and return back to your space. Thank you so much for practicing with us today. I hope that you have a really lovely, restful evening. Maybe do something to kind of honor the full moon. Set an intention. It's the beginning of the month. School starts really soon. So hopefully y'all are excited for that. We will be back here next week, same time, 4 o'clock for live stream yoga. Hope y'all take care and see you then. Bye. And bye, Luca. Luca, say bye. He's passed out.